Sonic Riders is sick as f. It's no secret that Sonic is my favorite video game franchise, and among the games that got me into the series is Sonic Riders. On paper, a Sonic racing game sounds like a match made in heaven, right? Sonic is all about going fast, it just makes sense. There were a few attempts in the 90s like the Sonic Drift games and the more infamous Sonic R. I would argue those games were kinda ass. Sonic Drift 1 and 2 were just mediocre kart racers, nothing very special, and Sonic R was all about racing on foot, which should work with Sonic characters, but it controls horribly. Although that soundtrack is Despite how underwhelming these games are, the biggest problem I have with them is the lack of identity. To me, a big part of what makes Sonic cool is the style, or the edge perchance. That is where Sonic Riders comes in. There are few games with the amount of sauce that this game has. It exudes everything that makes Sonic, to me anyway. Before I start gushing about this game, let's take a quick look at how it came to be. The concept of Sonic Riders came from Takashi Yuda's idea of Sonic using some kind of vehicle. They wanted to use something related to extreme sports, as well as something that reflected Sonic's personality. With this in mind, boards were chosen. Also because they thought boards were the coolest, which I 100% agree with. I mean, come on. Apparently, making a game around boards had been an idea for a long time before Riders was even talked about. Fans had been clamoring for a new Sonic racing game, so I guess the stars kind of aligned on that one. Also, I didn't know this until researching the game for this video, but the turbulence mechanic is what made the team decide to stick with the skateboard, snowboarding type of gameplay. The extreme gear, or hoverboards, lame, were designed around air to give the team creative freedom when designing courses that race cars wouldn't really work around. Here's the thing that stuck out the most to me about the development of this game though. Yuda wanted to make a racing game that showed off the unique Sonic action element that no other racing game could. That right there is what makes Sonic Riders so special. This game is one of a kind. I've been playing it since it came out in 2006 and I still haven't played anything quite like it. Even its sequel isn't as good as the first attempt. Before I jump into the gameplay, I just want to talk about the story real quick. You could tell around this time Sonic games had the budget for some beautiful story cutscenes because even the spin-offs like this were getting CGI. The whole game looks great actually. The exaggerated proportions and facial expressions have been sorely missed. The story goes like this. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are tracking down the Chaos Emeralds when they run into the Babylon Rogues, characters that were first introduced in this game. Their team, being Jet, Wave, and Storm, are seen escaping police pursuit with the Chaos Emerald. Sonic gives chase, gets humbled, and finds out Eggman is putting on a Grand Prix, with the cost to enter being 1 Chaos Emerald. Surely nothing nefarious going on there. The winner is promised all of the emeralds at the end of the tournament. From here, the gang enters the tournament and butts heads with the Babylon Rogues along the way. One thing you gotta understand with these guys is that they're just in it for the treasure that they believe can be found on Babylon Garden, a long-lost floating island. Wave places a bomb on Sonic's board early on while taunting the team, which she blows up during his race with Jet. Jet wins and uses the Chaos Emeralds and this cube key to summon Babylon Garden out of the desert. Eggman takes the opportunity to steal the key and fly off to Babylon Garden in search of advanced technology for world domination, which was his plan the whole time. Sonic and the rest chase after him to put a stop to things, and once there, Sonic and Jet have one last race to get to Eggman. Sonic humiliates Jet and then saves Amy from Eggman by almost killing them both. Sonic gives the key back to Jet since he has no use for treasure, and Jet tries to refuse because he doesn't want pity, but Wave happily accepts. Once inside, they discover a fucking genie. Alright, look, I love this game, and I love the story because it's just so crazy for no reason. I know it's kind of a trend for Sonic, but the spin-off hoverboard racing game? I don't know, but it's part of the reason why I love this series so much. Anyway, this genie is protecting ancient Babylonian treasure, which turns out to be a magic carpet. Sonic and friends team up with the Babylon Rogues and race through what looks like hell to defeat him, and Eggman pulls up to try to get the treasure one more time, but faints once he realizes it's just a carpet. With Eggman stopped and the treasure taken, the two teams part ways with Jet vowing to meet Sonic again on the racetrack one day. You know, the story was pretty simple in my head, but for a racing game, it gets pretty complicated with the lore and the new characters it introduces. Like, a genie? Out of nowhere? Peak fiction. I also love the Babylon Rogues. Alright, let me break down the gameplay as best as I can. I'd say the gameplay is fast-paced and more strategic than your average racing game. You start every race on foot and have to time your run to the starting line better than your opponents if you want a good head start. If you go too quick, you get electrocuted and have to deal with a late start. Time it just right though, and you'll be far ahead of everyone else. Once you're past the starting line, you hop on whatever extreme gear you've chosen to use and you're off. Once you're moving, you automatically go forward as long as you have air in the tank. I know, air is everywhere. If they run on air, how could they possibly run out? I don't know. I think they explain it as some type of air energy, but don't worry about it. Anyway, to keep that bar from reaching zero, you gotta do tricks and utilize things like grind rails and breaking through barricades. On that note, this is probably a good time to mention character types. Think Sonic heroes: speed, flight, power. Speed characters can grind on rails, flight characters can air ride, and power characters can punch through barricades. All of these options are simple to pull off, give you a way to replenish air, and lead to shortcuts. Tricks are also easy to pull off. Just hold down the A button when going off a ramp and wiggle that control stick like your life depends on it. Although, try not to fly too close to the sun, because if you land poorly, you slow down and you don't get any air energy out of it. If you do run out of air, you'll end up on your feet again until you hit a ramp or one of the pit stops around the course. Rings are also a big part of the game, since collecting them upgrades your speed and the capacity of your air tank. That reminds me, you can also boost, which not only gives you speed, but also makes you attack anyone in your range. You gotta be pretty close, but boosting past somebody and beating the shit out of them on the way is always a good time. Rings can upgrade you 3 times, with each giving you more speed and better boost attacks as well. There's also item boxes around, but they mostly contain air or rings. Sometimes you'll just get a fucking ball and chain around your ankle like it's 1682. Finally, there's what I mentioned earlier, turbulence, which looks cool as hell. They appear behind racers moving at high speeds, and you can jump into it like a half pipe to gain speed of your own and even pull off tricks. I know that was a lot, but you gotta understand, this shit is peak. It sounds intimidating, but it is genuinely super fun. So fun, in fact, that I put myself through the torture that is unlocking Supersonic in this game. It's definitely not the easiest game to master, and I know that's not going to be everyone's vibe, but it's my vibe, damn it. And they took that from me. They took that from me, and they replaced it with more generic kart racers. What the fuck? After Sonic Free Riders tanked any and all future prospects for the Riders series, all we've gotten in over a decade has been Sonic and fucking Danica Patrick in go-karts. Listen guys, I like these games. I think they're very good actually, but they'll never hit the same highs that the Sonic Riders series did. I think the kart racers just severely lack identity. When I look at the Sega All-Stars games, I see Sonic trying to be Mario Kart. I'll give Team Sonic Racing some props, because at least it was all Sonic, it had some unique mechanics, and it had a great soundtrack. Story presentation was booty ass though, unlike Sonic Riders. Also, before I forget, I know I barely mentioned Zero Gravity in this video, so let me just say this. I think it still has incredible style, a banger soundtrack, and great story presentation. But the gameplay overall is mostly a downgrade. The control feels stiff in comparison to the first, and they oversimplified a few things, but the gravity mechanics are cool as hell. The Sonic Riders series deserved better. It does so many things right. So for it to just be dropped and forgotten just because they chose to make a broken Kinect game just sucks. Whenever I think of what a Sonic racing game needs to be, it's Sonic Riders. I think they nailed the aesthetics and the gameplay and would love to see them try something like it again. Because let's be real, no one is ever going to really compete with Mario Kart when it comes to kart racers. So don't be a kart racer. Be better. Be Sonic Riders.